Well, good morning, Keith Hayes. Mirador Television, and pretty cool outside, but also some sunshine. Not, it's not going to hit more than 0 today, and it's going to reach about 5 or 6 degrees during the day. And I have to say that, well, it still feels quite cold, quite cold outside. And there we go. We'll have to look to see whether we've got a decent picture. And yes, it's not too bad at the moment. So let's live with it for a moment or two and see how we go. And Stuart Dolby will be along soon, and he will be doing a review, as he quite often does. And he looks at energy matters. What's going on in the energy world? Where do we stand with the new incidents that are happening in the energy sector with the cost, and where we're going with energy, and what we can afford and what we can't. And now taking let's say I don't know, not looking entirely Well, hopefully we're back again. the thing broke down as usual, as it always does nowadays. I'm afraid we're going to have to do a lot more to ensuring that we get a decent picture. But there we go. Hopefully, that's now back on deck again. Well, we've right, okay. There, I think at long last we managed to get the thing going, and hopefully that's that it doesn't look too bad at the moment. Right, okay. So let's do what I usually do, and that is go to the newspaper headlines. And Berlin send tanks and Hunt rules out tax cuts is the generally speaking the broad message of the newspapers this morning. Is the Daily Telegraph is a hammer blow for Putin as Ukraine gets tanks, and essentially what the Telegraph is saying is that Germany and other NATO countries have offered to get up to 200 tanks into the Ukraine to take on the Russian invasion. And the papers say that the 200 tanks is something that is pretty difficult for Putin to take seriously, not take seriously, or whatever. And some suggestion that perhaps this is the end of the Russian attack on Ukraine, as far as the Russians are concerned, because of this number of tanks that has been offered. Well, that's the way it is, and that's what's happening on the battlefront, if you like. And the Daily Mail has changed its reasons. Is 2.5 trillion reasons the UK must go for growth. What the Mail is saying is that Conservative MPs are arguing that tax cuts are needed now to help balance the Treasury's books after the national debt hit 2.5 trillion. Apparently, this is we've actually found out that we owe far more as a nation as we thought, which means that the people in charge of the country at the moment, for whom we have some worry about the leadership that we're seeing, is that we owe far more than we thought, and that they're going to have to do something about it. And what Hunt is saying is we're going to have to not give away and cut back on taxes. We're going to have to keep the taxes because it's the only way that we're going to be able to pay the bills, and that's the way it is. And so I'm a little bit less than excited this morning. I'm just not. We have been yelling and screaming and stamping our feet over the lack of leadership from those people who are in government, whether they are in the opposition or whether they're in the government. And I must say that I'm finding it very difficult to get excited about anything that they say anymore. So it's increase taxes, cut taxes, give the money away. Frankly, nobody seems to know quite what to do. The Eye says the Treasury rules out tax cuts after being surprised by the UK's record borrowing. Yeah, taken by surprise. We've got people who made lots of outlooks, lots of promises and so on when they were fighting not too long ago to get the leadership role. And now they're saying, oh, well, but we didn't know about that. Well, they should know about it. We're fed up with having leadership and government who don't seem to know what the hell is going on. And it's not good enough. The economy is failing to bounce back fast enough, says the Times. And The Guardian, Berlin agrees to send tanks to Ukraine in historic move. Well, yes. Biden renews the call for assault weapons ban in the United States at a secondary headline, but once again, there's been a lot of killing and shooting in the United States, and they're suggesting that they need to actually get cracking and stop some of this stuff happening. Once again, there's this issue of should people be able to carry a gun in the States or not. Germany agrees to send battle tanks in the boost for allies backing Ukraine. That's the Financial Times. And Eurostar trains are running a third empty because of post-Brexit passport delays. In other words, as usual, the governments have started to get the red tape to the point where it's stopping people going on the trains. Very typical. Very typical. We are in a situation that's happening at the moment in Europe and in the United States, is that the leadership simply do not know what they should be doing, and so they're not doing it. Be warned, the Daily Express, be warned and increase our pension age at your peril. And the Conservatives had said that they were going to up the age that you became entitled to the amount that you get from the state, or the age at which you get it, and they were going to move it to eventually much later age, and but not until 2046. And now they're saying they're going to bring it back ahead for 10 years, just to get out of the present problems, because we haven't got the money. We spent it all getting ourselves out of COVID and lockdown and all sorts of other things. And it was very easy to give money aside when the crisis was on. And now people are waking up and saying, oh my God, what we've got to do is we've got to pay this back. And that's not so good. The Mirror is deadly failings. And the Daily Mirror reports Chief Inspector of Probation Justin Russell saying he cannot guarantee the public is being properly protected, speaking after a report into the failings that left a man who was wrongly assessed as medium risk as free to kill, a lady called Zara Aline. They said their probation staff were overworked. In other words, safety in the streets is not exactly what we should expect, and everybody, once again, seems to be the way that the government behaves at the moment. People in charge of things is they make a guess, they make an excuse for what they're doing. The Sun, a Squid Game in horror in the UK, a game show based on Netflix's Squid Game suffering frostbite. The Sun says that participants are saying that they took place in a Netflix thing, and they did it in the soft bite. It's just a cold, in other words. I don't know. I'm finding it very difficult to get my mind going this morning, and I'm afraid it's not so hot. The Daily Star: is there a Chinese spy in your fridge? Well, what that is about is that apparently China have managed to build in things into things like fridges and so on that we're buying from China, only to find that we've got in it little bits and pieces, which means that you've got in your own home. If they want to, the Chinese can actually can spy on us. So, all right, yes, okay. Hang on, Stuart. Let's just take a quick look at what's going on locally, and then we've got time to really go to the important thing, which is what's happening on the energy front. There's a black substance that's leaked into a beach, promising investigations of where it came from. Nobody seems to know where a black substance has leaked onto the Eastbourne beach, and we don't know where it's coming from. It's pouring out there and contaminating the beach. There's a popular trampoline park is forced to close, leaving the customers gutted. Let's see where that is locally. Air Arena Chichester trampoline park forced to close, leaving hundreds of customers gutted, it says. Right, okay. It's and what the rest is really stuff that we went through. Anger sparked after asylum-seeking children kidnapped from a Brighton hotel. Oh dear, this all seems to be happening, doesn't it? Anger sparked after asylum-seeking children kidnapped from Home Office Hotel in Brighton. What on earth is that all about? The disappearance of dozens of asylum-seeking children believed to have been kidnapped by gangs from a Brighton hotel, and a whistleblower who works for the Home Office contractor Mighty and Children Protection Sources describes children being advised or abducted off the street and put into cars outside the hotel as an observer investigation. So locally, all sorts of naughty things happening. Goodness gracious me. Where are we? And when we come to the weather, it's not such a bad day, really. It's not going to go up much more above 5, but it's not going to below 0. All right, I'm sort of wandering through bits and pieces there. I'm waiting now for Stuart to come along, but what we'll do is we will see what we can...
well, we've got a bigger story going, haven't we?
We'll wait for him to come along and tell us what's going on in the... let's go to Ghost Train just for the moment, shall we? This is a popular one, and to give us a chance to get our... There we go. Many people find commuting by train tiresome. But one of the pleasures of taking a train to London is that it passes through some of the most beautiful countryside in the UK. None more so than the view of the countryside as the line approaches Clayton Tunnel, just north of Brighton. The tunnel is the longest on the line, at 1.25 miles, running under the South Downs. It's unusual because the entrance is not the usual railway brick. It is instead designed to look like the gateway to a castle. On top is a cottage built for the railway's lightkeeper in 1849. The tunnel itself was opened in 1841 and the cottage added later. Idyllic. But after 1861 it became a nightmare, or at least for those who believe in ghostly goings-on. In August of that year, a night train left Brighton, travelling north to London. Partway through the tunnel, it stopped at what it thought was a danger signal from the lightman. The engine driver was correct. The railway official had indeed given a danger signal, but the train had rushed past him before pulling up. Thinking the train had cleared the tunnel, the unfortunate lightman gave the all clear to a following train. And it slammed into the back of the first train in the dark, killing 23 and injuring 176 more. It was the worst ever accident on the line. And people walking on the downs over the underground passage have reported hearing the screams of the passengers as the trains pile into each other. The line is now also a direct line from Lewes. I've travelled through that tunnel 1,000 times. I've never heard a scream other than the screech of the wheels and brakes. But I've never walked over the downs at that point either. And I turned down an invitation to stay in the cottage overnight. In fact, I get tense each time I go into the tunnel, knowing what had happened more than 165 years ago. But my fellow passengers carry on reading their newspapers, obviously oblivious to both the tragedy and the ghosts. I could sometimes scream at them. The ghosts of Clayton Tunnel. Eerie. Bloody eerie. Microphone. There we are. We've got back to live, and not a great picture, I'm afraid, but not bad either. We just have to live with it until we've sorted this out. I'm terribly sorry. I must say that things are getting me.
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps.
Well, there we are. It's twisting the tail. Right now, on the weekend, we had this last weekend. We had the speakers festival here in Lewes. It lasted for the 3 days with some top class authors speaking live about their books, and one of those was Christina Lamb, the just about to take over lead, I think, and she was the Financial Times and was about to take a senior post in the United States. And Stuart talked to her, and here she is, or here they are, talking about their
So he said, I think I'm going to send Christina to South America. The correspondent. I said, are you mad? You know, Corey, there was a very famous New York journalist called James Scotland Mason, and he said that the great American public would do anything for South America except really about it. So, do you really want to go there and not be read? And in fact, she went there and there was some brilliant articles. Again, I have to say this involved with women about up in the Amazon where women were slaves and some of them were murdered and killed and all that kind of thing. So there is sort of this kind of compassion and feminism, if you like, going through the school. So after Sacramento, he went to South Africa, and therefore he goes out to a whole Africa town, which was about what was it about? It was about an English gentleman trying to actually build this millennial house is very difficult, impossible, because being in South Africa in those days, apartheid wasn't a nice sort of
So living with these unusual guests, of course they got to know them very well, because lockdown we were all together 24 hours a day. And they started learning a lot about how these various people's stories, how they ended up on the streets, and many of them, had really difficult childhoods, living in care, had been abused, and so they started realizing that actually many of the people had ended up on the street not feeling for them, and how difficult it is to get off the street once you're on. So it was a real learning experience. And from the other side, for the homeless people, many of them were very wary to start with, and suspicious, and there was also lots of factions, because a lot of the homeless were alcoholics, but there was a lot of drug addicts. The drug addicts and the alcoholics could like each other. But they became this new family over time. I mean, this dysfunction of families, but they did become a family, and they all got to know each other very well. And there were some happy endings, but there were also some that didn't work out. And I think, it became very clear that it's very challenging trying to deal with this. And it's not, I think in particular Charlie, the manager, who's absolutely adorable, he thought if you feed people really well, give them a hug, love, and a roof over their head, that you can solve the quite complicated issues, a lot of them with very challenging needs, and that's the most important thing about this, that I think there's an opportunity to help a lot of people, but they needed some services, and those services were not big step up to help the people at that time. It wasn't, in the moment of the lockdown, so they were offered services by Zoom, but it weren't the kind of people that were used to keeping appointments at a certain time, and they were all actually given tablets, given iPads, to be able to have these appointments, and very quickly most of them were sold.
Ready for you, ready.
It was
They wanted to make countries in their own image, like in France, their country made it like the Philippines. And they just wanted to create a country which is like America, and so forth. And probably Vietnam, that, they wanted Vietnam to be like America. But it's just not possible to do it.
It's not necessarily just doing things, but it's the fact that, in 2001, when we went into Afghanistan, we then asked Afghans what they wanted. We thought they needed elections. We thought they needed, a Western kind of constitution. We thought they needed gender awareness classes for women.
They wanted to make countries in their own like in France, their country made it like the Philippines. They set up and they just wanted to create a country which is like America, and so forth. And I think probably the same thing happened in Vietnam, that they wanted
brilliant things in that, but it's the fact that, you know, 2001 when we went into we didn't go and ask Afghans what they wanted, what they needed. We decided what we thought that they needed. We thought they needed elections. We thought they needed, a Western kind of constitution. We thought they needed gender awareness classes for women. Christina will be signing copies of her book here. If you want to go and get that.
Right.
Okay, here we are. We need to get you a bit centered more. Right, you had a good interview with Christina Lamb who was just going to the United States, I understand, as a senior journalist.
No, I think they got the whole CVs a bit wrong. The one who's going to the United States is Emma Tucker.
All right.
Who is a Louisiana.
Right.
Born here, and she started a little magazine, school magazine, when she went to Oxford and worked for the Financial Times. Everybody wants to work for the Financial Times. Mm-hmm. And so, no, I think, Christina has got an OBE. She's got Legion d'Honneur from France. She's got from America.
Right.
She's got 16 awards altogether, 5 the best foreign correspondent. Now, I don't know if you got the early bit about how I launched her career. I don't know if this is in this film, but anyway, let's recap on it. She became an intern from Oxford. And she was assigned to the foreign desk. And I was foreign news editor, which means I was the major, where Stuart Martin was the colonel, and he wanted to send women off because his wife was a feminist and kept getting at it. So she sent Christina off to Afghanistan, Pakistan, you see. And it went on like this, and then Christina was in Afghanistan, I think, but she phoned me up and said, President Zia has been killed. It wasn't Bhutto, it was President Zia has been killed. What on earth shall I do? And I said, you do the 5 things of journalism or writing a news story. When did it happen? Where did it happen? What happened? How many is that? 4, 5. No, let's start again. What, where, when, why, and one other, how. And she wrote an article which was put on the front page. Her career soared. You know, it was just an extraordinary thing that she sort of wanted to be a journalist. And anyway, I went and buy a book, and then you can read the dedication. Keith, do you want to read it? Or shall I read it?
To Stuart, thank you for telling me how to write a story, Christina. And that there's Lewis, the 22nd, 2023, at the Speakers Festival in All Saints Centre. And that was, in fact, Sunday night when Stuart was the master of ceremonies, if you like, for her speech to the audience that had turned up to listen to what she had to say.
Yeah. She's a very, very nice person, actually. I mean, she really is.
Indeed, she's a very nice lady.
Just 10 books.
And very capable. Very. Anyway, that was the highlight of the weekend. But now you're ready with Energy Matters.
You bet I am. Do you read the newspapers?
Occasionally I do.
Right. No, this Energy Matters is actually pivotal. Right. I was going to give you one about EDF, give me back my money, which I can talk about as well. Okay. Now, what am I doing? Getting out here is a problem. Right. Energy Matters. This morning, in headlines, is Germany what does it give you? Let me get the paper. Well, you know about this, right? And this is all about energy. Okay. Germany agrees to send battle tanks to boost for allies.
Well, bring the paper here.
Yeah,
Nobody can see you where you are.
Right. This is a very amazing story. Okay. Right. Germany agrees to send battle tanks in boost for allies backing of Ukraine. This is absolutely groundbreaking. Now, you want to go back to Napoleon, when way back after he failed to take over Moscow and he had to go and retreated, and he was said to have said, these Russians, they just come on, coming on at us, keep on coming, don't matter how many people. Now, if you fast forward to different dictators, particularly in this instance, Stalin. At that stage, Hitler didn't have any oil. Germany still hasn't got any oil. So he decided to send the troops down to the Caucasus, which Russia had when there was plenty of oils, yeah? And Khrushchev became in charge of Stalingrad. And Stalingrad had a very, very good general called Ustinov, and he did the most outflanked. He outflanked a flank around all the Germans, and they were locked in to this little box, if you like, and that began the actual end of the Second World War, because Hitler didn't have any oil. Okay. Now, so why is it that dictators in the end always come unstuck? Now, if we fast forward to Mr. Putin, you could say about the German WhatsApp. Okay, it's not Putin. Germany, after the war, wasn't really allowed to have tanks, but now that they're giving these tanks, Putin is probably going to have another spring offensive. The thing about it is that energy is critical, because Germany is nearly 40% on Russian gas. Are you with me? Therefore, again, they still keep coming. These dictators, they think they're invulnerable, but Putin is now trying to take over, and Germany finally has agreed to send battle tanks and abuse for allies back in of Ukraine. So that's where we are in the Energy Matters, because the fact is that gas, they need Russian gas. It keeps on flowing just to have a power and so forth. And then what's going to happen?
Well, now, it's one of the things that is confusing me, Stuart, and perhaps you can explain to our viewers, is we are told that the energy prices have decreased a little bit, that inflation is under attack from the authorities and beginning to ease a little, and yet on the home front, in other words, the average person sitting at home and using gas are told that the prices and charges are not going to come down. How does one match with the other?
Well, in fact, you see, it's a global situation with gas, all right? And most people think it's down to Putin. Well, it's not entirely. There was a shortage of supply all over the place. And what happened is that, I think we went through this before. Where was I? That Putin and his gas, yeah? And then what happened? Well, Stalin and, what am I talking about? Sweden and Finland joined NATO. That must have frightened out Putin. But when Putin sort of starts messing around with using the gas as a weapon, it's not going to be funny. And the reason that people are starving to death is because, as I've said many times, this cartel. The providers are a cartel, like the cartel of banks, okay? Now, on January the 1st, 2020, British Gas was pleading poverty, right? By the end of June, 6 months, it turned out that British Gas had made a £1.3 billion profit, okay? So what do they do with the cartel? Do they spend it on buying gas or investing in renewables? No, they just sat still and gave the CEO of British Gas a £2 million salary, and the other 5 got £1 million salaries. Okay, and all the shareholders in British Gas were allowed to buy back lots and lots of shares, meaning that these cartels are giving huge amounts of money. Yeah, and then you get back into what's Putin going to do in the war?
Yes. Now is there what is your view on the way that the energy companies, and for that matter the government, are viewing this situation with power, particularly going into the homes at the moment? Are we going to meet another crisis? Are we in a crisis? As the easing of prices internationally, is that going to mean that the householder will be used, will find some easing?
No. Look, the householders are based in contracts, aren't they?
Yes.
You take out a contract with EDF or so forth and so on, and there's a real problem now because you see what these companies do is they set up a tariff, but it often is based on estimates. You know, and also now the other story that you need to know is the smart meters. Like, it was a thing in the Sunday Times said that my smart meter said so and so, but your tariff sounds so and so. So I need to get some money back. Now I was in the same position last year. My smart meter said, I think in December you had spent £550 on gas and electricity. That's what it's on. And I said, you just sent me a email saying that I owe EDF. Well, I owe EDF. No, that's not right. what it was that they were. Sorry, where was I? What did I say to them? I've lost the plot.
Yes, I mean it's a funny morning this morning. I think that there is so much going on internationally. We're being tugged one way or the other, and finding it hard to concentrate.
Yeah. So no, the thing about it is that the cartel are just profiteering, and that's outrageous, absolutely outrageous. That they're making tremendous. And you see, you've got this strange thing in the energy cap itself, because I'm actually writing an article about this on my website now. So the tortuous path of the energy cap. So first of all, the energy cap, why the regulator was set twice a year, wasn't it? April and October. Yeah. And then the regulators, Ofgem, suddenly said they were going to set the tariff every 3 months. So after the Truss fiasco, where it turned out that Hunt said we will have set the tariff for £3,000. Well, if Truss hadn't messed everything up by saying we're going to have 2,500, which he couldn't afford to do, the cost of that was £90 billion. And so the thing was that people on prepayment meters, because they couldn't afford to do it. It's like charging up your phone or your television. You haven't got enough money to charge it up. So yes, this winter's going to get a lot worse apparently. And also the other one, the direct debit, which most of the cartel use. I'm on a direct debit, for example. The smart meters tell lies. They don't actually tell the right things. They say, and there was one in the book, but she said, but I actually paid this tariff And your white, smart meter said that I spent slightly more, slightly less. I mean, this look. It all started, didn't it, in when Thatcher privatised the energy companies, and that led to an oligopolistic cartel who put the prices up as they saw fit. And then Ed Miliband, who was leader of the Labour Party, said, if I get into power, I will have an energy cap. But he didn't get into power, but David Cameron did. And he got spooked by the idea of an energy cap, so he asked the Competition and Mergers Authority what they should do. And they said, oh, what should you do? Right, get cheaper suppliers. Well, there weren't any. And all of a sudden, there was. But ones who started sending up energy companies in their garage, or they started doing it at the office and all that kind of thing. But as the gas price kept going up, these new purposes couldn't meet the deals they'd offer. Say British Gas had offered 1,000. Well, one of the younger one would say we can do it for £800. And anyway, we know what happened. At least 30 of the 50 went bust. And then Rishi Sunak came along and said, we're going to give 650 quid to the poor and 400 to every household. And that's only just finished, hasn't it?
Yes.
And then what Hunt has done nothing to do about the energy crisis, God only knows. I mean, now, for example, had we gone to the status anti-quo, where there was the energy cap is something, a ceiling that is set, beyond which the suppliers cannot that must stay, right? So what happens? And they said, well, the energy cap at the moment is, say, what would it be? Let's say it's 300, 3,000. No, what am I talking about? The energy cap, yeah, would be 3,000 in January. And I think that's what it was, and so on and so forth. And the cartel is simply profiteering at the company. And now you've got the smart, there's a prepayment, like putting money in the television or putting money in the gas and the electricity, because they haven't got that kind of money.
Yeah,
they're poor. It's awful.
Stuart, it does seem to me that, and you and I have discussed this, and I think we're of one mind on this, is that the government is showing a lack of leadership at the moment. But if you were the Prime Minister, what would you aim towards in terms of the energy situation in, say, 6 months' time? If I was in your cabinet and you'd called me in this morning, what would you say is, Keith, look, this is going to be our policy over the next 6 months to try and resolve the energy crisis and to be a bit fairer to those people who are facing huge bills for heating and lighting at the moment?
Well, look, there's a load of people saying the government and the big six are actually got schemes where they can help or support the poorer people. Well, you could have fooled me, because it's rank capitalism. It's like Mrs. Thatcher. Okay, I believe in capitalism. I don't believe the excesses of capitalism, and that's what you're getting. And I think the real problem is not Rishi Sunak, what he should do and so forth, is that I know Boris, as you know, but I happen to Boris, one of the smartest things he did when he was Prime Minister was to fill the cabinet with second-rate people. Okay, that meant that none of them would usurp Boris, wouldn't be able to usurp Boris. Okay,
Yes.
and so it went on. So what was your question, Pete? You said,
as I'm saying, if you're the Prime Minister and if you're looking for a point to be at in 6 months' time, what steps would you take, and where would you like to see the country as far as energy is concerned?
fire Rishi Sunak and put all the cartel of energy suppliers into jail. That's what
right. But I mean, are there steps, practical steps, which you think this government could take to ease the situation, or are we going to? Is it going to carry on? Hunt, for instance, is saying he's not going to cut taxes. He's not going to cut taxes. He's not going to cut taxes. So I find it's suspect anything that they say they're going to do, and I can't see that there is any clear path, anything clear in terms of applying stuff to help the consumer, to help
No, they're not. They're
right.
not. Well, the companies say they are. They say they've got plans, but when you go and ask them, they don't come up with anything.
Right.
And look at the other stuff which was promised.
Exactly. Yeah. Have you any thoughts about where? If I'm asking you to suppose now is if in fact you wanted to say I'm going to aim towards making things better in 6 months' time, what steps would you take if you were the Prime Minister?
I would actually improve the regulatory regime for starters, and I would actually put the cartel of suppliers on notice that you're very close to corruption that is actionable by you could actually have people who've won battle about smart meters. There was a lady in the Sunday Times who got £160 back or something like that. Myself, EDF, I set my own tariff at 250 because I knew it was much more than we use, whatever smart meter said. And when it came up, when my next billing came up, it would be £641. I said, but your smart meter said this, right? Therefore, you owe me money. Oh yeah. Well, yes, we do actually. We'll send you £100 to your bank. I said, no, you won't. We'll send £300 to my bank, and that is that. What the bank does with it, I wouldn't like to think, but there you are.
This business of the smart meters is that pay as you go. The threat by the big banks, and they seem to have their teeth in it. Is if you can't pay, we're not going to give you anything. You maybe pay as you go, but if you can't pay, you're not going anywhere. Now that seems to me to run in the face of everything that humanitarian that's been said is nobody will freeze to death.
Firstly, yeah, but you've got the problem here really that, as I would say that Boris, politics has been colonised by celebrity.
Yes.
Right now, Boris didn't vote for the Conservative Party. They voted for Boris because he's good on television and he's a bit of a lad. I think we'll have him as Prime Minister. That's how they go on. And then, again, it's if you look at the Labour Party, there is sort of really feeling that Steer Karma has had a charisma bypass. So people are not going to vote for him, is he? Because he's dull as ditchwater. And so it goes on. It's colonising politics, I think.
Yeah.
And these governments have been in power for 12 years. And it's probably, I think, now a case of fin du siècle. And for French people, that means end of an era. Okay?
Yeah.
Fin du siècle. And they are very tired and they should just go away. I was just listening on the radio this morning. It's all right, if Keir Starmer is had a charisma bypass, you have got people in the Labour Party in top jobs like Andy Burnham, for example, and he's oozing charisma and doing incredible things for Manchester. And you've got Angela Rayner. I mean, she's deputy. Boy, she's got charisma falling out of her ears. I mean, and so on. And I would hope that that's what would happen. Because I think here he goes off to Davos and he's very stealthily getting us back into Europe, which you don't agree with. But he has managed to make some connections between our businesses and European businesses.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I really do. I'm sorry if you're a Brexiteer, I mean, go in the corner and I'll bring your dunce's cap over. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, Stuart. Now, one of the things that you do very successfully is you give a point of view and comments on what's broadly happening in the country outside the energy sector, although that's your area of expertise, but you also commentate on where we're going. I've spoken to several people just in the last 24 hours, and everybody is totally bemused. If the government is trying to impart its policies and where it's going over the next 6 months, it is failing abysmally. And what are the things that you think that are upsetting people generally in some of the policies that are either being instituted or not being instituted?
I don't know about that. I mean, Hunt, for example, deregulated the city. Right, here we go. That meant the bankers could put their flipping wages up as soon as that, whereas the poorer nurses are getting 4.4%. And the bankers, like the cartel or what's it, are paying themselves fortune. Okay? And it's outrageous, really. And it's corruption, isn't it, really? Because they're in power, they think they can do anything.
Yeah. Well, now, Hunt has started some controversy again in his own party. One of the things that has happened to the Conservatives in the last 4 or 5 years is that the tail has wagged the dog. The backbenchers, if they don't like what the government is doing, they stomp their feet. And the next thing you know is you've got a prime minister at flight.
Well, there is a big majority, and a lot of these backwoodsmen, as I like to call them, are terrified about losing their seats. I mean, with these old boys in Sussex and Surrey and God knows who else, they're desperately trying to cling on to their seats.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it, when the mistrust was up for, and Prime Minister and the head of government was elected by 80,000, which Jeremy Paxman called weirdo conservative voters, right? They determined who was going to do it, when the House of Commons has that right to do. To actually sort of elect a Prime Minister on the basis of 80,000 is hardly bloody democracy, is it?
Yeah.
When you just got this elite, sort of half asleep bloody constituent doing that, makes my blood boil about it.
Yeah. So where do you stand on the backbenchers are saying to the government, look, you've got to cut taxes. We believe that that's the way to stimulate the economy. But not only that, but you promised that you would cut taxes, and now you're reneging, because what you're saying is that the country owes far more than they thought, which my first question is, how can a government possibly allow things to get out of control? And they roll into the office one morning, roll into number 10 and sort of say, oh my God, the country owes more than we thought. Surely they didn't just expect all the expenses that we've had recently to go on.
No. How did that 27 think were those? Look, this Rishi Sunak was one of the people who said we shouldn't lower taxes, because lower taxes mean more money, mean more inflation. Okay? Now, the only thing you can do to weld in inflation is interest rates. And therefore, you've got to get interest rate. When people say, all these expenses we had, what are the expenses? They are government bonds, which the government, they incur debt. And that debt to pay off debt, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Which is madness, isn't
it? Yes, but what really bothers me, I suppose, is that I have here said that it worries me that the tail has been wagging the dog. Now it looks as if Sunak and Hunt are saying to the backbenchers, you're not wagging us anymore, we're going to put up taxes. And the backbenchers say, wow, this is going to destroy the economy, but also we're going to lose our seats. People are rebelling against the fact that you won't cut taxes. is are they damned if they do and damned if they don't?
Or the backbenchers?
Well, the government really, because the backbench is putting pressure on them, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they just want to stay in power. That's the difference. I mean, I think a whole lot of them should be thrown out, dropped off. And
yeah, well, I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, I don't remember. I don't remember such an inept government as the one that we've got now, and it doesn't matter. Well, this is the third leader they've tried in almost as many months. It's not right.
You go back to the Labour parties of Harold Wilson and so forth and so on. And you go back even further to Clement Attlee, where the Labour Party did incredibly good work. I don't know whether, I don't vote for the Labour Party, I vote for the Liberals. But I would say that they come to their senses, get Andy Burnham as leader of the Labour Party, and give a good job to, well, possibly a chancellor to
yes.
Armour, yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, it is one of those things that I think it's a bit frightening that we do seem to be flailing. I mean, you're much more phlegmatic about these things than I am. I tend to get emotional and wave my hands. But surely there must be a general feeling of alarm that we stagger from crisis to crisis. I mean, the only, if I can put it this way, the only leadership that seems to be shown recently was Boris going off to Kiev and saying, "Don't worry, we'll sort you to the end of the war." Mind you, then we wake up this morning to find out that 200 tanks have been promised.
No, it's 14, but they want 300. But this is very, very interesting because Germany never was allowed to be military like that. And also, it's got a huge Green Party, which was very, very averse to sending off tanks and getting shutting down nuclear power stations. So it's very difficult to know. And you've got, as I say, the body politic colonised by celebrity people. It's like America. It's like Oprah Winfrey standing for president, or Trump, God save our lives, standing for president and winning. Yeah.
I mean, while we're at it, because once again, as I say, you have got a great sense of humour, and you can be very teasing about some of the things that are happening. But there are a few things that aren't deadly serious, aren't there? I mean, I wonder if I could digress for a minute, because I see that there have been 2 sets of fatal shootings, mass shootings in the States. This is within a 24-hour period. So this old bugaboo about gun law and the gun lobby and so on has raised its head again. And what happens is it keeps on raising its head, and then everybody forgets about it, and so on and so forth. What's your take on this business of arms control in the States?
Well, I've always been against it. Really, I think it's just ridiculous. What people don't realise is that apart from New York, on the Eastern Seaboard, and Los Angeles, San Francisco, on the Western Seaboard, the whole big middle is one bunch of redneck serfs and slaves. Rednecks, you know what a redneck is.
Yes, indeed.
It's a peasant society. They believe in having guns on the back of their front door, so they can shoot somebody if they come and knock. And then you've got the other. And what else have you got? I can remember there's one friend of mine, and after the Vietnam days, it's a bit of a too long a story, but all these American posh people, they sort of think about it, that Vietnam was soldiered by buffalo soldiers, black guys, and rednecks. People, didn't really have anything else to do, and you've got it's middle America, isn't it, that you've got to look at, not the whole the Hollywood what's this coming up, it's the Midwest.
Yes, I mean, I think that absolutely right. But having said that, do you think that this is a situation which the Americans will never resolve? This question of whether you should own a gun or not.
Well, Obama just tried, didn't he? He didn't get anywhere. But when you listen to these Republicans on the TV, I mean, these people are bloody, they've got to protect themselves as if, someone is going to come and take them. And then if you've got a gun, you're going to use it. This is the whole thing.
Yeah.
And therefore, people, one of my American friends got a lady who got an estate in Scotland. And they said to me, do you want to come and shoot some deer? And I said, no, damn well, no. Well, what about some pheasants? No, I don't eat pheasants, thanks very much. And the Americans really are I don't know whether it's insecurity, mass insecurity and so on and so forth, but it's just feeling that they have peasant values, redneck values. I'm going to protect mine,
Yeah.
And we got some of those here, don't we? We have.
Yes, we have. Yeah. And actually, it seems to me, Stuart, that's an increasing viewpoint. Is that we've got a police force that seems to stagger from crisis to crisis. The NHS staggers from crisis to crisis. The police force now staggers from crisis to crisis. You name it. The energy companies are taking us all for a bunch of idiots. Some of these big institutions. Do we need? I mean, I know that you're not a Thatcher fan, but the one thing she was strong. You do this and you do it right or wrong. But we seem to what's on everybody's lips out there is February the 1st, everybody's going to go on strike. And people shrug as if to say, yeah, well, they're going on strike. The trains will be on strike.
Look, we can't do anything, can we? We can't send a letter. They're on strike. We can't get on a bus. They're going to be on strike.
Yeah.
We can't get on a train. And if you can't get on a train, you can't go to school and you can't go to the hospital. So what else can you do? Come into the pub. But even in Lewis, the number of pubs is diminishing at a worrying rate.
Well, I mean, it was a bit worrying, wasn't it? Because we were in town on Sunday night and we couldn't find a pub open.
Exactly. We came in here up here, didn't it? This was closed. And Christina's husband desperately wanted to go to see the football. And I sent him down to the alley. And God, bloody hell, that was closed.
Yeah. I mean, it was the only one we could find out was the Lansdowne.
Go back to the Lansdowne, which was that's close to All Saints. Anyway, we didn't have to pay for our tickets, did we?
No, we didn't. I mean, let's just very quickly, because all last week, we between us, we interviewed and we had on Mirador some very prominent people who've written books. We were fortunate enough to be able to interview them. And the funny thing is that we discovered also a couple close to home. You interviewed
Christina.
You interviewed Christina, but also during the week you interviewed on Wednesday, last Wednesday. You interviewed who was it?
Charlie Mitchell.
Yes, Charles Wycherley. And once again, these local people that we give us a good, fair background on what's happening locally. And he was quite interesting about real estate, wasn't he? I mean, I know you pulled his leg about the fact that you bought a house for 900 quid or something, and now it's worth $1 million or whatever.
Something to admit, there was a thing came through my door yesterday, and it was about the council, and so forth, and what they're doing. And first of all, I think the district council is totally incompetent. Diagonally across there are the tourists, right? That whole block is derelict. It's owned by the rest of it. Then we have Matthew Bird, the climate change thing. Well, I don't believe in him. I think he knows as much about climate change as I know about chicken turkeys in chicken farming in Peru. So he doesn't like me, I'm sure, if he's listening to this. And they're talking about, we've reduced carbon emissions by 15% since 1918. That's not much of a reduction, really, is it? You know, when in 2019, I went to a sustainability meeting. He was there, and so were the Greens. And they said we're going to have zero carbon emissions by 2030. And in my hat, my green bale hat, and knowing about energy prices, and I said, what did I just say? So, yeah, carbon emissions by 2030. We're going to put electrical charging points all over the town and plant some trees. Now, 6 months ago, he did another update, and he said there were only 7 charging points. Yeah, that's incompetence, don't you think?
Yeah.
And then, what's the other one? He hasn't done anything about the Riveroos and dumping all of this and so forth and so on. And then he said, they're all talking about gasifying all council houses. I bet you they bloody well haven't. Nobody in a council house can hold a air-fueled heat pump, can it?
Yeah.
No, they're going to desert it.
Yeah.
And it's, there was a crisis in energy supply. In June 2020, okay, the wind didn't blow. You've got the problem with this is intermittency, right? The wind doesn't blow, sun doesn't shine. Therefore, you've got to have gas storage. So you've got to have gas. Well, solar panels is rather different because they can work, but you need a lot of money and so forth and stuff. No, the thing is that there has to be a gas bridge because the investment in renewable energy has not been sufficient to meet the energy mix. And we'll have to wait to see what happens. Professor of Energy, Dieter Helmer, Oxford, and Government Supply says there hasn't been enough investment. I read about this for years, and I can actually say, without fear of contradiction, that there just hasn't been enough investment, because of intermittency and in storage. That's the the link. You can't store the wind. You can't store. The sun, and therefore you've got to find a way of storing these energy things. And there are. My colleague Julian writes about this, and he has found companies that can do all this, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
And I say in June 2020, the wind didn't blow. So Boris Johnson has been talking about renewable energy and nuclear, and he went straight to the Drax Power Company in North Yorkshire, and he said, "Can you put your coal mines back on in business?" And they did. And now he's supported 2 other coal areas, hasn't he?
Yeah. Where do we stand on? You're quite right, because some of these things, once we kick up a fuss when they're first announced, and then we seem to forget about them. Where do we stand with reopening the coal mines? Where do we stand on the development of nuclear energy?
Oh well, coal mines. They would be very interesting because, again, Julian found a situation where down in the coal mine, there's water, hot water, because of the rocks below. They heat the water just above. And that means that I think it's 27 towns in the north of England have got thermal heating. Because that water gives you thermal heating.
Right. Yeah.
And there's another company we write about called Anglish Energy, which has got some hot rocks in Devon. Okay? And that means you can actually get thermal power.
Right.
And just to digress for a second, one of the things that I'm always looking for companies of renewable energy to write about. And Cornwall, where it's 40% second houses, very, very low income. no industry as such. Okay, they had tin mining, didn't they? And that stopped. So anyway, I found this one called Cornish lithium. Lithium cars, okay, and it went onto the stock exchange, and we brought this to everybody's life. That battery technology, that kind of thing. So then there was another one called Clean Tech Lithium. So actually, Green Barrel has brought back industry to
Yes.
to jobs as well.
Now I know that the developing or reopening or carrying on with a nuclear policy was one that gave you some concern a few months ago. Where is the nuclear energy program at the moment?
Well, to my absolute fury, Sizewell C is going ahead. Sizewell B is actually about 200 yards from our holiday home.
Oh, yeah.
And well, I don't think the others are going very well. Boris suddenly, he was very interested in small modular reactors. Okay, they're small nuclear plants which you can actually take to the factory and charge up, because they run on strontium, not on uranium. And when people talk about renewable energy or climate, non-emitting things, you've got uranium, which is not renewable. So then that's the problem as well. And so Boris now, because there's not been the investment, is going back to coal and gas. People buying gas boilers, they've got till 25 to buy.
I find that there is always a reluctance of politicians to admit that they're wrong.
Quite so. Well, they're trained to see that they're trained like parrots to sort of actually avoid questions. I wouldn't be quite sure, Eamon, because yes, I have to look into this, and then they left. But they don't. Boris was fired from the Times because he lied about things. Well, Boris is a congenital liar, right? Okay. And therefore, and then there's other papers like the Telegraph and so forth and so on. They do all that kind of naughty things,
So, now we have to be careful that we're not all gloom and doom merchants, you and I. Although I think we do try to call it a spade to show that we are in some problems. But what bright lights do you see for the coming year? Sure. What do you expect to change for the better?
I can't think of anything. Well, no, I do something about Brexit. You can actually. I think what Keir Starmer's doing is good. What benefit has Brexit given us? Tom.
To me, I, having worked for the EU in various parts of Europe, absolutely astonished at the level of corruption. So to me, just being out from under that sort of mentality, I'm not necessarily saying that we're in a good position, but I think it would be just as worse off if we'd have stayed in. Because that, you know my famous quote from Gorbachev, who said that before he died, one of the great mysteries of my political life is why European politicians are rushing so hard to reintroduce the old Soviet Union. I think that may have encouraged Mr. Putin, doesn't it?
Well, I think Putin just wants to restore the Soviet Union.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. He's already done Chechnya. He's already done Georgia. Now he's doing Ukraine. He's got troops amassed along the Baltic states, any number of them. Yeah. Oh God! Estonia is a great town like that country. Well, what can be done? I don't know. We just have to do our best, don't we?
We do, if you've got somebody who sees their success in reintroducing something like the old Soviet Union or reintroducing empire, very difficult to get that knocked out of their mind, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to the nuclear thing, of course, that two things. First of all, they're incredibly costly. Hinkley Point, for example, 18 billion. Chinese paid 6 billion. They've now been kicked out. But Hinkley Point is what? 13 years behind. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's that. Now, size will be, it was saying that it would cost at least, again, something like 20 billion to actually do the third. We'll see. Where's that money going to come from? The government, for God's sake. Okay? Doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
12 years to wait, though.
Yeah.
By which time we're all going to be dead or something. You know?
Well, actually, if we keep on waiting for this government, they're going to be bankrupt. I mean, they don't seem to have control. What astonished me was Jeremy Hunt sort of saying, "Oh, I hadn't realised just how much we owed." You know, I mean, for God's sake, he's the man in charge. He doesn't realise how much we owed, and therefore,
so he says, what did he say? Oh, it's gone up to 77 billion from something like 13 billion. But it was Christmas. That was very expensive. Well, how many Christmas presents did he buy?
Well, we've had a good natter there, Stuart, and well done on your involvement with the Speakers Festival. I mean, not only at the festival itself, but some of the interviewees that you did last week. We brought into focus a lot of interesting people that are around with topics that we wouldn't normally think about. So I think that's what we're probably going to do now. Is we're going to relieve ourselves of the tension, and we're going to play some past programs, which will give us a view of what things were like here. While we actually relax a little bit and stop testing it. I think actually we both of us worked very hard on what should be days off, Monday and Saturday and Sunday over the weekend. I think the reason that we both look at one another and say, what were we saying now, is because we've wearied our brains. So let's give us a rest and let's go to some programs that we did in the past. Some of them are now out of date, but they're all interesting. So here we go.
Lewes is a very historic city. It has more history on its main street than many other towns in the UK. We tell some of it. Welcome to Mirador. The old man once told me that when he tried to make an omelette, he used over 2 dozen eggs before he hit the target. Nonetheless, over half of it ended up on the floor. No surprise there. Here is his expertise as he joins me for Break an Egg.
Hello. At last I've caught you asleep. Yeah, you're always trying to show me asleep, aren't you? Hey?
Aww, it's too early, go away.
Oh no, we've got work to do. We're taking Break an Egg from Grange Park this week, and it's a nice place to fall asleep.
And here I was thinking I could get away from you.
Get away.
You can have this back.
Oh,
You
right.
need it more than me.
Well, I must say that I got a haircut coming tomorrow, but for the moment I'm going to cover up, I think.
Correct.
You just don't want anybody to see that I'm bald and grey, and all because of you.
I think people can see that anyway, don't you worry. They've known you long enough in this town.
You know, one of the interesting things about this park is, you've got two young children. It's a great park for coming and having picnics and things.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's quiet. It's large enough for them to run around. Very good.
And that's how you see it.
Yes.
Well, believe it or not, particularly at the time of the conquest, this was underwater.
Wow.
This was an archipelago of small islands, and the priory, which was founded in 1079 by the first lord of Lewis, William de Varenne, and his wife Gundrada, is that the deed mentions that they are granted, the priory is granted an island over there.
Are you sure it was 1079?
Well, some people debate it, but it's certainly 1079 or 1081. I remember it well.
Clearly not that well. I'm pretty sure it wasn't that year.
Just over here, there's a river called the Winterbourne.
Indeed.
Well, I mean, now you would call it a stream, right? Not much going on there
No.
until winter. Then it rages a bit.
Yes.
But that river was big enough for barges to travel up to the priory and unload various goods and so on.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I would think that the slate from this, the cladding, which used to be on the priory from this mansion here, probably came up that way as well. So I think it's Welsh, or it certainly didn't come from locally, but obviously man-made developments have dried it out, and so it's now nice, flat, calm lawns, as you say, nice for children to play on, with just a little trickle of the old river running through it.
Indeed. Are there any pictures?
Not from 1079, I don't think.
No?
No.
Oh dear.
No, I can remember distinctly when the camera was first invented, and it wasn't 1079. It's a little later than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You love the camera, don't you?
No?
No? Oh, come on, you're always preening, right?
Me?
Takes you 15 minutes to get that lipstick on.
2 seconds, actually. You never pay attention.
Never pay attention. I'm supposed to pay attention. The other interesting thing is that now if you go up onto the high street in what's called Bottleneck, where the road comes together like that, is the old grammar school, which has been there since about 1520, as I recall. And it originated, a lady paid some money for the first grammar school just over there, just over the wall there. But it consistently flooded because this was very much a water park, if you like. It wasn't a water park, it was part of the grounds of the Grange, of course. But it because it flooded, they eventually moved it up to where it is today. But it's been up there for quite a long time. And so down here was a very interesting part of Lewes. And some people say the little area of Southover is over there. Now, why has it got its own church? Why has it got its own pub? Why has it got its own high street? And the reason being is getting from there to Lewes proper wasn't as easy as it is today. Just a short walk to pub.
Yeah, your favourite topic.
Aha, yeah. What do you mean?
I bet the reason why we're here today is because there's a pub just around 50 yards from here.
I think you can smell it, can't you? I can.
Of course you do.
Yeah, well actually, let's see how we're going. Oh, it's not, you know, I think they're probably open. So I think it's time that we went for a pint. Huh?
Huh? What do you mean, huh?
Sort of asking your permission.
No matter what I say, it doesn't matter. You'll be there anyway if you really want to.
Will I?
Well, I guess. I'll just have to do all the work by myself. Again.
That'd be good.
Will I get a Bloody Mary?
If you pay.
Oh, for goodness sake. Is it payday yet?
Well, I never have any money, as you know. I'm a bit like royalty.
Oh, did you say royalty?
Hey, I did indeed.
Oh, okay then. That's all right. No comment.
But Annie, you come from outside Lewes. I've been here for 30 years. But some of the things that you actually find here from a historical point of view, do you find that you enjoy them? Do your family enjoy them? Do your children enjoy them? Your mother lives with you. Does she enjoy them?
Yes, indeed. I love the history of this town. It's a lot of culture. And a lot of restaurants.
Ah! Well now, one last thing before we go, because we will be talking food and drink on this programme throughout the week. But the Priory actually owned some of the pubs and the inns in the centre of town, right where the White Hart Hotel is now. And they were known throughout England for being excellent for food and excellent for wines. And that was the monks that owned it. So
Interesting.
there's a lot to be said for the churchy type pubs and so on.
Indeed.
You like churchy type pubs?
I just like pubs.
I was going to invite you to come to church with me.
Church?
Okay.
With you?
Okay, I'll invite you just to the pub.
I'm still not entirely sure how they let you in the church every Sunday. Mind you, it is not every Sunday. He's not that brave. He only goes twice a month.
Secrets. Anyway, if she'll get off my back long enough, we will go back to the studio and we will present hopefully a nice lively mix of programs throughout the day for you. And then we may come back here tomorrow morning, because it is a lovely place. We are expecting a heat wave. The sun is breaking through the clouds. It's all very pleasant, isn't it?
Indeed. At least he was until you turned up.
Go back to sleep.
Thank you. But is that you telling me you're going to leave now?
I may.
Please do. Goodbye.
Can't get anybody to work nowadays. Can't get the staff.
We are trying to lift the somber mood of the country on this channel. However, there are certain issues that need to be taken seriously. And when it comes to them, the old man has a short fuse. Just listen to his next rant.
Give us back our town. Give us back our town. Lewes, 2 or 3 years ago, combined its civil service, if you like, its executive, not its political arm, not its elected officials, but the civil service, the people that actually run the city, run the town, combined with Eastbourne. And it's been an absolute disaster. You can't get through, you can't get any services, the excuse is that we're supposed to be serving both communities. Where are you when you call? Oh, I'm in Eastbourne. But I'm in Lewis and I'm asking something concerning Lewis. I don't know Lewis terribly well. Well, why in earth are you representing an executive that's supposed to look after both communities? And not only that, the politicians are not using the scrutiny committees that they have at hand to find out whether you're doing a good job, bad job, or in-between job. That's how bad it is. You are useless. You have got a system that's unworkable, and you keep on trying to give some sort of rationale as to why you should keep it. Well, don't. Let Lewis get its own administration back. Stop this farce and stop pretending. What are you doing? You're actually protecting your fat salaries. Yes, they are fat salaries. I looked them up on the web. I know what you're making. Top 5 people. And a few others in between. But why and how do you account for the fact that so many people keep on leaving? And that so-called senior officers are really juniors with very little experience, bumped up because you haven't got any senior people left. And that's just one side issue. And we could debate that forever if we wanted to. But the fact is, you are not providing the service. Some of your people have no idea what's going on. They don't know what the issues are. And they most certainly don't know what Lewis and its district are all about. It is time that you accepted that this experiment has not worked. It is time that you changed. It is time that you swallowed your pride and said, okay, let's look at a system that will work. Because if this keeps on, as I understand it, the government can take back the running of this area, the running of this district, the running of this council. And I would hate to think that I would stand at the roadside to watch a federal government come in and clap them as they came to take back the authority from local people. It is time to stop this stupid experiment. It is time to say, we tried, it doesn't work. It is time to give Lewis back its authority. Time to let it forge its own destiny. Time to make sure that every time we pay a council tax, that it goes to looking after the citizens of Lewis, and not, as some have suggested, 80% of it going to Eastbourne. People in Eastbourne, perfectly capable of looking after themselves. They've got their own elected officials, we've got ours. So let's stop this merger, this mad merger, which has been done nothing but bring grief to this area. Swallow your pride. Sit around a table. Figure out a plan. It didn't take you long to figure out a plan to divide. It shouldn't take you very long to bring us all back together again. The curmudgeon, Keith Hayes, Little Cliff.
Sorry, yeah, carry on.
The thing was that when we were talking about earlier about politics being by celebrity, and that Keir Starmer didn't, or the Green people at the Green Starmer didn't have, and so forth. Now, there was an article I read in the New Statesman not so long ago, which says the Green Party has missed the opportunity of being the leading party of opposition. And why was that? Because the Green Party, which Caroline Lucas doesn't seem to want the job, she's happy as an MP, a very good one, I think. And there's two presidents, two leaders, right? And public haven't got the bloody clue who they are.
Yeah, yeah.
And that means the Green Party is not even third largest, so it doesn't get a say in the question time.
Yeah.
But you look at it here. I mean, when you had that Eton problem up on the Downs, where Eton had some land where they were going to do it, and the Greens abstained in voting against it. What's that all about? And they here, for example, they don't seem to be doing any good work.
No.
When you think about MPs, really, they're essentially jumped up social workers. They are.
I love that description, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you think about, Norman Baker here, he was a wonderful constituent.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And he did tremendous amounts for the community. And the Green people, I suppose they do food banks, yes, they do all kinds of goodly things, but when it comes to chase, they don't seem to sort of have the bigger picture in mind, really.
No, you're right. Anyway, we're going to leave it there for this morning. It's we're all a bit desultory, and I think that both Stuart and I have found some of our enthusiasm for things that have gone on, both locally and nationally, has been tempered somewhat on the basis that we seem to have a lot of people who are, to put it bluntly, useless. And our role is to point that out when they are being useless. And I think that nobody knows what the hell they're doing.
Well, these people when they lose their cabinet post, they're the first to buzz off and get jobs in the city, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Remember Ken Clarke, a wonderful politician who stood for Leader of the Conservative like 3 times. Once he didn't have a chance to get a member, he went to a cigarette company and said, I'll help you out. I was non-executive of 3 oil companies, and one of them paid me $24,000 a year, do 3 days a month. Well, you don't do 3 days a month, but it's 24, for these non-executive jobs.
Yeah.
They're very, very, very good to have, let me tell you that.
If you've got them, they're very, very handy. But I understand what you're saying. That's a lot of money for doing nothing. Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back tomorrow, and we struggle continually against this technical problem. We try very hard, and we'll have another go today. But in the meantime, Stuart will undoubtedly find a way for us. It's a bit early, but I'm sure that he'll start to think of ways that bang on 11 o'clock we'll be able to have a pint.
Yeah, I think that's
not a bad idea.
Not unlikely, isn't it?
Right, you are. Okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, from Stuart Dolby and Keith Hayes, toodle, 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 pip.
They